So this is the oldest tombstone, not always decorated with a rather splendid plastic crane. It dates from 1679. And you've got to imagine, so the lord of the manor there and the rector and the various big families around this area, they come with their servants. They go into church. You're sorry about this. There is quite a lot of work. This is a village, but it's a very busy one. They come, and most of the servants have to stay outside. They have to look after the horses. They also, honestly, they're not that interested in the church service. So they would sit out here like this. And you can see the shape of, shall we say, their posterior has worn into this. So this is this is our oldest tombstone. And probably people were sitting here right up until the beginning of the 20th century. And over time, their bottoms have worn a groove. Now, the other issue is that they had their small beer, because you didn't drink water, it's far too dangerous. And they would find that the service had gone on for 2 hours. And to be absolutely honest, they really hated, to go to the toilets. And we know precisely where they went to the toilet, on what the children affectionately called the peeing stone. Follow me. Paddy. So you're a servant, and you're a quite strict master, probably quite strict mistress as well. And you know that they may come out. Depends how long the vicar goes on. You have no idea quite when they might come out. But you are desperate for a pee, but you've also got to keep an eye out so that if milady comes out, you can go, oh, my lady, yes, of course, yes, let me get the horses. So we come here, and you kind of keep an eye open, and you pee on this stone here, which is why it is eroded. That is probably 300 years of not having a public convenience. Now, the other wonderful thing to see here is this facade. So the medieval church, we have an arch inside, which is from the Norman period, around about 1100. The bulk of it is probably from the 14th, 15th century, but it was crumbling, it was falling down. And also you're on the edge of Bath, you're here in Bath, so you've got rather tasteful visitors coming who are looking for the Georgian style. And you can't afford to knock the whole church down. So what do? You stick a facade on it. But this is the original medieval church. This is the Georgian bit put up in 1721. And it does make it look rather splendid until you go round the back. And then you find the holes. The visitor set. So,
does that include this?
The whole of this.
This grand doorway?
Yes, everything. So this grand doorway is exactly what a fashionable visitor coming from London, coming out to see, friends in the country, would expect to see. It says what it basically, and this is really interesting, what we're looking at here in the whole Georgian style is a mimicry of Greece and Rome. Why? Because we're just beginning to build an empire. We're just beginning to think, we kind of own an awful lot of the world, and we're an empire. Well, but what's the appropriate style for an empire? It's not got wattle and daub. It's not sort of old half-timbered houses. It's got to be something classical. It's got to be classical. That's what it is. That's what empires are. This is like a Roman temple or a Greek temple. It's saying we've arrived. We have arrived. And probably much of what went on inside this church from around about 1721 onwards would be much more what we would call deist. It would be worshipping a god who was a great architect who set the world going, but not with the emotional stuff of Christ. And there's a very famous story. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodists, was an extraordinary man because he believed that everybody could be a child of God. Everybody. God loved everybody. And he loved the miners out in the hills who were considered subhuman. They were categorized as subhuman in the early 18th century, mid 18th century. But he went out, he preached to them, he said, God loves you. Stop drinking, stop hitting people, stop abusing your families. Become Christian, become proper people. But the builders of Bath were only interested in the wealthy, and John Wood in particular, who designed the circus and the Great Crescent, he hated Christianity. He thought Christianity was for weak people. He refused to build a church in his Bath. And there's a wonderful story of how one day he and a group of friends were walking around the circus. In those days, you had the pavement, but the road was just mud. And coming towards him was the loathed John Wesley, who thought that poor should be given education and valued and treasured. And he, John Wood and his friends, blocked the road. And they said, Sir, we do not make way for fools. Whereupon John Wesley said, Don't worry, I do, and stepped in the mud.